recently, I had a Super Smash Brothers tournament.
Correct.
And I was practicing a bunch for it.
Mm-hmm.
Many months before I started doing all this practicing, I just couldn't get better at Smash. Not that I was like super good, but like I just didn't. Yeah, plateau.
Hit the wall.
I didn't know what to do. Yeah, I hit a wall. However, when I started practicing again, I kind of broke this wall. And the way that I broke it is I just started to play the game super weird.
What do you mean?
I was just doing one attack over and over again. And it's a tactic I used to think I was fine at.
Right.
But like, because I limited myself in that way, there was like all these things that I started picking up on. Like all these really minor fine points. So I've been having to think recently, like, how is it that you break a wall, like break out of that plateau whenever you kind of hit one? Well, have you had to do this before?
I've had to do this before, actually. It sounds like you've kind of hit the nail on the head, too. I really think the best way to approach something like this is to think totally differently or weird. You know what I mean? If you go about thinking about a problem in the same way every time, you're going to solve it essentially the same way every time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you try and kind of get the 30,000 foot picture, you step outside of the box, you examine things, you can see it totally differently. I've definitely hit this plateau. Some of you know I am a bit of a rock climber. I'm not a very good one, but I try my best. And I found I was just hitting just a peak that I couldn't quite get free rock climbers out there. like a crimp, like a little crimp when trying to reach over with my arms, I would always just get off balance and fall off, and like no matter how I oriented my hips. And it reached to the point where I was just like, fuck it, I don't want to do rock climbing anymore. Like I cannot pass this. And that's what I find happens with a lot of people when you're like, I just can't get any better at this.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give up.
You're like, this is where I peak at.
Exactly. But I find when you pick it back up again, which you really should pick it back up again, it's like everything comes back easier.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it'll take time for your muscles to develop again, but it's just like, it's just kind of inherently in there, and you're like, oh, right, I remember having an issue with this before. Now it's not that bad because you're just removed from that situation. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how important do you think, like, taking that break away from it is?
Oh, I think it's humongous. I mean, just one thing about us as humans, like the way that we process information is by sleeping. Dreaming about a situation. Like, actually something very close to this right now, you and I just both started swimming.
Yeah.
And I am a god-awful... I didn't know there was that much like technique involved in the way that you want to do your arms and the way you want to breathe and stuff. Yeah. And last night when I was laying there exhausted, unable to move, I just dreamt about swimming. And I was like, oh man, okay, so I know how I'm gonna approach it. I kind of have an idea in my head of how I'm gonna breathe properly. So I really think taking that break is huge. It depends on how long the break should be, though. I mean,
that's the other thing I was thinking about. And I was also thinking about, like, what about the people who are in a situation where they can't take a break? Like, say you work this job and you want to get better at your job, you feel like you're plateaued, stop learning something at your job. You can't just take a break from your job.
Yeah, that's
other
fair.
than like vacation time. But vacation time, like, it might not be long enough for what you need to like kind of kickstart. Because I find like I don't break through those walls from taking a break unless I take a long break from it, like a month or two.
Right. Well, something maybe that could be beneficial is having an outside source come in and check things out. Yeah. Because like if you're trying to solve a problem, I can closely relate this to when I was working in a lab. I was constantly trying to do this experiment, and I was trying it one specific way, and I was like, well, this is the only way to do it. And I brought someone else in, and they're like, oh, so you're doing it this way? I'm like, I didn't even think of that. I didn't think of that type of acid in this situation, and we tried it, and there was just some underlying factors going on there that I didn't even think about otherwise. So I do think bringing in an outside source, kind of a fresh pair of eyes, can be very helpful.
So that's kind of about like, taking what you're doing and looking at it a different way, and having somebody else come in and like kind of show you a different way can really be helpful.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking like, are there tricks to like kind of forcing yourself to think about things a different way? Because when I started practicing Smash again there, just doing that one attack over and over, that didn't require me to do a break before I started doing that. Right. I could have started doing that months ago, and I'd probably be a lot better than I am now.
Yeah.
If I had done that.
Well, as far as the tips and tricks goes, we're actually not going to reveal that right now. This is just part of our infomercial, and we'll be selling that book for 3 easy payments of... No, sadly, I wish I had the answers for something like that, but I don't. I know what works for me personally, which is what I listed, just trying to think about it differently, and I mean, it depends on what you're doing. right?
Yeah, it starts to get a little context specific.
Yeah.
When you're trying to think of
like let's say
how to switch something up.
if you're a power lifter, you have to lift the weight. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, maybe the way in which you train and your diet that goes into it is something that you should really take into account, but you have to lift the weight. Like, there's no other way to really approach that, as far as I understand. But I have very limited knowledge in that. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Imagine
the way
you could
in
do
which
something like doing similar lifts, but different lifts.
Yeah.
Just kind of switch it up, or like focusing on a certain part of the lift, so only going halfway through the lift and stopping. Like, maybe that's how weightlifters
but
deal
eventually
with
it's the same task.
Yeah.
You just have to think about things differently and try and make yourself a little more well-rounded in that specific topic.
Yeah. So it's kind of like getting new things like fresh in your mind. Because like you said earlier, with like sleeping, you're not going to learn things unless you're like thinking about it when you go to bed.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be thinking about it. And you're not going to think about it if you're doing the same old. There needs to be those fresh things.
Yeah, because when you're doing just the same old, it's kind of like creases like start to form in your brain, and it just becomes like that's why people feel the later half of their life goes by so quickly, and the years go shorter as the days. Oh no, the days get shorter as the years go by. Bruce Cockburn lyric, I believe. I think that's absolutely true because there are less new experiences in life. So if you're always trying new things, you're going to have more memories.
Yeah, keep learning and all that jazz.
Jeez, this got really philosophical.
It was philosophical.
Wow.
That's how I like to do.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know how to sign off right now. I'm just like, I'm kind of mystified.
Good night.